the freaking Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Well, I know. I think both of you guys golf, no doubt, huh?
He golfs a lot more and a lot better than I do. Let's just say that.
Yeah. You got to work hard at it, I guess. I know whenever I talk to him, he's talking quietly, and I'm wondering, why is he talking so quietly? It's because his partner's putting, and it's always the deal. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Hey, well, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. That's I think Rick and I have been watching catchers now for the last since at least middle of the summer, and it's unbelievable what we're seeing out there. And I think it's time to touch base with just another guy who can share his insight because he's been there, done that. And my God, you were a manager for 19 years. Let me say this real quick, and then I'll do the intro. But I remember, I would say that was probably the year that the Angels won the World Series, along with the '88 Dodgers. And I like the Mets. I thought the Mets had a great story back in '69. Those are my three favorite World Series. You knew where you were at each one of those because you were hoping the Angels might get back in. They've always had good teams. But wow, was that unbelievable to watch.
We had a great time with it, but nothing was like our '88 team.
Yeah.
That was a team that it was just a team effort from all the way down. And we played great baseball. People don't give us credit. They think we were a fluke. We played great baseball, and we might have beat them another 10 straight games if we played them. We were playing great.
Yeah. And everyone remembers where they were.
Unmatchable. The ingredient for putting that team together. I mean, Fred Clare did a good job at bringing a lot of players in, but they were the kind of players that were not selfish players. They went out there, and you got to play together to win a lot of ball games like we did. I don't think we had too many 3-game losing streaks, did we, Mike?
No.
I don't know if we did have one, to tell you the truth.
No.
But my God, and that's a tribute to everybody on that team did what he was expected to do. We had the stuntmen. You weren't one of the stuntmen, Mike. You were a regular.
Yeah, I don't know. I played like a stuntman when we had to. Here's the thing you're saying. Depper, with the exception of like Gibson and Marshall in the middle, all of us would either bunt if we had to, hit and run if we had to, take a pitch if we had to, put our shoulder in front of a pitch if we had to, whatever we needed to do. That's the way we played. So if the situation of the game said you really need a bunt here outside of Gibson or Marshall, and you wanted them to swing anyway, we would put a bunt down and put us in a situation to score that one run. And we had great pitching, great bullpen, and we held leads the whole year. And that was a great recipe for winning.
Yeah. You just don't see that these days. All right, well, let's get into it because we'll probably cover some of that in the conversation.
Yeah, we do a lot of that same stuff. Yeah. You don't want to miss anything this guy has to say about that.
I know. I'm just, I don't see him around town, but I know that you are around, and you've got your hands in some stuff, and you've been great in giving back as Rick, and I appreciate that. So let's just rock here. Here we go. By the way, you see this? That's Lasorda.
Oh my God.
I did a thing with the Dodgers. I did several of them, actually. I've got this one. It's, I've always said that you push the button on the back of it, it's a talking keychain. And he'd say, I should have you, both of you guys, give us your best Tommy Lasorda stories. But maybe for another time. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the Prospect Blueprint. This webcast is for prospects, coaches, and those who support those prospects so they best understand what it takes to get from one level to another, whatever that next level may be. I'm Kelly Kleiman, and my battery mate, as always, is Mr. Rick Dempsey, 24-year MLB vet and fan favorite with the Twins, Yankees, Orioles, Brewers, the Cleveland Indians, and Dodgers, and the 1983 World Series MVP for the Baltimore Orioles. Hello, Rick.
Hello. Carol, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We have a great guest today, and I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to miss so much. We could talk about this gentleman. Our guest today is a 2-time manager of the year, a world champion, not only as a player 2 times with the Dodgers, but as the skipper of the 2002 Angels, which I consider one of the most satisfying World Series I've ever watched, along with the '88 Dodgers, of course. He was twice selected as an All-Star and was widely known as part catcher, part brick wall. a guy you did not want to collide with. Now, imagine being a 175-pound infielder rounding third base and seeing a veritable Chuck Bednarik fully armored just 90 feet away, preparing to hammer you. That would be our guest today, Southern California baseball icon and vaunted Philadelphia Eagles fan, Mike Scioscia.
Guys, great to be with you. Great introduction. I like the Chuck Bednarik. At least he got to wear a helmet when he got hit.
Rick leads off every game we play. Here you go, Rick. First pitch.
Mike, I was around you for quite a few years in my major league career, and I'd seen you play so much. I know you won championships with the Los Angeles Dodgers, but I just never put two and two together. You're one of three players that have won a World Series. I saw that plenty of times, but you also did it as a manager. And it just blows my mind to think that, that there's not more guys that have played the game and won World Series, because they want guys like that to manage ball clubs. But how does that make you feel now after all these years?
Yeah, there might be a few more, Dick. I'm not sure about the 1 out of 3, but I do know why we play this game. We play this game for rings, and I think you and your experience, what you look back on. You look at those championship rings, and I was fortunate enough to come up in 1981 with an incredible veteran Dodger team and be part of that championship. And then '88, we talked about all the pieces fit in, and we won a championship in '88. And then in '02, just managing. So it's a great feeling. I feel like I've had an incredible opportunity through this game of baseball. And to achieve that, that's what I look back on, really, those 3 seasons.
Yeah. Mike, we're kind of a college-oriented podcast here. I can't remember if you signed right out of high school. I'm thinking that you did sign out of college. How did they go about recruiting a player like you at that time?
Depper, probably. I seemed like a high school kid, probably, but I did sign out of high school. I was actually 2 weeks away from going down to Clemson University. I had a scholarship to play baseball there. And the June draft came around, and I got drafted in the first round by the Dodgers and was still going to go to Clemson University and play baseball. So I called Ben Wade, who was the scouting director, and my mom said, "Tell Mr. Wade, thanks for the interest. You're going to go to Clemson." My mom had taught school for first grade for 30 years. So she said, "You're going to get your education." So I said, "All right, you just do what your mom says and what you want." So called Ben Wade and I said, "Mr. Wade, thank you, but I'm going to go to school." He said, "Mike, we'll be in touch." And 2 weeks later to the day, the phone rings at noon, and I pick up the phone and they say, "Mike there?" I say, "Yes, this is Tommy Lasorda with the Dodgers." And he was their third base coach, and they were in playing the Phillies. He said, "I'm going to be there in 1 hour at your house. I know where you live. We're going to go work out at Veterans Stadium." And they had early work there. We're going to go work out, and we want to make you a Dodger. So still not knowing if this was real or not, I was ready. And 1 hour to the minute, his Lincoln Continental pulls up. His brother's driving, and here's Tommy Lasorda in the real, in the flesh. So I go to the ballpark, work out with the Dodgers work out with the Dodgers against the Phillies, work out early. And they had me hook, line, and sinker. The next day I'm on an airplane to Walla Walla, Washington to play my first professional game as a Los Angeles Dodgers signee. And it was quite an experience.
It was a great relationship between you and the Dodgers. I mean, it couldn't have been any more perfect. You're going to hear a little something about Tommy Lasorda, but the fact that he drew you in like that, the Dodgers had a lot of class. Say what you want, they've probably done a lot of bad things, but a lot of good things. But they loved their players like they loved you, and that's what made that organization what it is today. The strength that they had, being able to be that way.
Absolutely. I think if it was any other organization but the Dodgers, I might have felt differently. But at that time, I mean, the Orioles had a great reputation also as far as their minor leagues and what they were doing. And you had the Dodgers, you had Cincinnati Reds, you had some kind of historic teams, teams with great tradition that were there. And I never looked back. I signed and never thought about what might have happened if I had gone to school.
I wish I could have had that with any one of the organizations that I played for.
24 years in the bigs. Boy, what some people wouldn't do just for a sniff of that coffee, right? But unbelievable. I share the sentiment that Rick suggests here. Let's talk about that draft, though, because it's pretty interesting. It's everyone has a Tommy Lasorda. Anyone who's dealt with Tommy Lasorda probably has a quote or he said something that you'll always remember. But this has been known, but I want to recall it here and let y'all know what it was for those listening in who haven't dealt with him. But regarding the draft, Tommy Lasorda, and I quote, "When I made Mike the number one catcher, the writers, he's referring to sports writers in the 80s, came to me and said, Steve Yeager said that you made Scioscia the number one catcher because he's Italian." Tommy Lasorda said, "That's a lie. I made him the number one catcher because I'm Italian."
Tommy was too much. Tommy was too much. I mean, you want to talk about somebody that loved his roots and where he was from. He was dyed in the wool, loved the Italian culture, loved being Italian, loved everything of Italian food. I think Depper, after every game, 99% of the time we had Italian food that he would bring in,
I know.
to eat. And he made that comment, and I didn't take too kindly to it because I didn't want any kind of people to think of any kind of favoritism, which of course there wasn't. Tommy wanted to put who he thought was going to get the job done and play those guys. But yeah, Tommy always had a line about something. I was a notoriously slow runner, really slow runner. In 88, Rick, I don't know if you remember this or not, but my wife is pregnant with our son Matthew, and I'm on first base, and I always thought I was a daring base runner, even though I was probably the slowest guy in the league. And I go on a base hit. I'm trying to go to third base, and I go round and second. I got third base easy, and Terry Pendleton's at third base, catches the ball, and I'm out by like 25 feet. And I kind of half-heartedly slide into third. So I didn't want to go back to the side of the dugout Tommy was, so I tried to sneak in near the water fountain on the other side and go down and get my catching gear. And I hear him in his booming voice saying, "Scioscia, you're so slow. If you raced your pregnant wife Ann right now, you'd finish third." He said it in the dugout. So I'm like, how was I going to respond to that? And that was Tommy. He always had a way to get his thoughts thoughts through.
Where did he come up with all those? It's remarkable. They just flow out of that guy.
Exactly. He was the king of the one-liners, and as Rick knows, he wasn't shy about letting you know what was going on.
Yeah. I ended up doing a few deals with him. It seemed like I was actually paying him to do the deals.
Oh, yeah.
You know how he is.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk about your Springfield high school career. You grew up in Philly. Other than baseball, you'd have made a great linebacker. Did you play any other sports?
Oh, I played football, played a little basketball, but I was really drawn to football. I love football. And in my junior year, a Penn State recruiter came down, not really to look at me, to look at other guys. And we had a couple guys that went up there to play. And I asked our coach, and I said, "Can I, introduce myself?" He said, "I'll introduce you to him." The recruiter came over, said, "Mike, oh no, we had you on the radar, but I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, you're a little too small, a little too slow for what we're looking for at Penn State." And he was 100% right, but I was crushed. But he said, "I hear you're pretty good at baseball, so I think that's your best shot to go." So I love football, was not going to play anymore. I had a chance to go to University of Delaware and play football and baseball, but I wasn't going to go anywhere in football, and to kind of put that to rest. So I had a tremendous experience in high school with a baseball coach who played minor league ball with the Giants, actually played with Willie Mays in Trenton in 1950. We had an understanding of the game, and really nurtured me to be prepared for whether I was going to go play in college or whether I was going to sign and play professionally.
What was your amateur career like? You're looking back in the 70s, we're right around the same age, and we played all different sports, and certainly in the wintertime, I would almost forget who was on the baseball, the big league roster with the Indians. I grew up in Cleveland. Who did you emulate the most as a catcher? And again, what did your amateur career look like?
Well, I think anybody at that age was drawn to Johnny Bench. He was the gold standard. Present company excluded, Dicker, because I know you were catching about them. But Johnny Bench was like the gold standard of catching, so you're drawn to him. But for some reason, I love Willie Montanez with the Phillies. He was kind of like a hot dog, but he played with flair, and he was somebody I just loved to watch. Love to watch play the game. Now, an interesting thing you said you hit on this was we didn't play that many games of baseball. I played for a full season. I would play no more than maybe 28, 30 games with high school and what we did in the summer. And then when you were finished, you put the baseball gear away. You went out, you played football. Then you would play basketball. Then back to baseball. That was kind of the rotation you had. So in some ways, I was not caught up with a lot of kids who grew up in California and played a lot more baseball even at that time. But my ceiling was higher because as I played more, as I got into the minor league ball, I played more. I could really feel myself improving, getting stronger, understanding the game more. And in 4.5 years in the minor leagues, was able to make it to the majors.
Mike, we kind of followed the same path. You and me coming up, we looked to the veteran guys to learn things from, especially the pitchers that we caught. And you had a great entourage of pitchers to learn from. And we picked up things as we went along. And I think that's what took us deep into our careers. And we kind of picked up each of you had your way and I had my way. But, let's talk about the catchers today a little bit. And I think that one position alone is taking Major League Baseball in the wrong direction because they're not even close to being as much a part of the game anymore with that going to one knee behind home plate. They don't realize how important it is to keep runners from advancing from one base to the other. Your take on on whatever's happened in Major League Baseball, that's depressing in the way I look at it.
Rick, I agree with you 100%. I think they're definitely going in the wrong direction with the pursuit of trying to talk themselves into saying they're getting more low strikes called and altering the whole position of a catcher of getting on one knee, becoming really just a fire hydrant back there where you really can't move. And I was taught a long time ago by Del Crandall, and Del would talk to me, would say, Mike, you want to get underneath that low pitch. You have to give your target a little bit underneath that ball. You want to bring it up, as we all were. We had no problem controlling the low pitch and getting it called a strike. And I could do everything from a conventional stance that all these guys with on one knee could do, but they can't. On one knee, you can't do everything that a guy in a conventional stance can. So the range of blocking, the ability to throw, the timing of your throw, all these things come into play. And I understand the one knee catching at times of a guy's, you're trying to get a sinker baller down and you're trying to get a little lower target, maybe shin high and you get low. That's all part of the adjustments you make as a catcher. But to clone catchers in one way is not going to work. And you stated, you and I did things differently, but we all understood our own leverage. We understood how our bodies needed to work. We understood what we needed to do to have the effect behind the plate to make the plays we needed, and we worked within that. And I think we're missing a bunch of that, a big part of that, with trying to clone not only catchers to catch one way, but game planning is going towards a just throw high fastballs and throw breaking balls in the dirt type mentality that I think limits you and paints pitchers into corners, and that's where they have to work harder to get outs early, and you're seeing their pitch counts go up, and you're seeing their length in games start to shrink.
Do you for me? I'm watching these catchers today, and the way they set up, whether it's one knee or just regular traditional setup and everything, Mike, they sitting back so far that the backswing of every hitter is in front of them instead of behind them. Now, you and I set up pretty tight. I remember watching you. And even for a big guy like you were pretty compact behind home plate. You could give a target real close to the back of home plate and still not get hit by the bat.
Yeah, I think you certainly want to shrink that little kind of that no man's land from where the hitter's going to, or the strike zone will end, and you're going to catch the ball. That was important to get up there as close as you could to the hitter, and it was very, very clearly laid out for us as young catchers why it's important. I'm not sure that, especially now when you're seeing a lot of talk about the automated strike zone and going away from umpires, that's going to be stressed as much about the receiving aspect of this game. And I think you're going to see some skill sets that were important in catching for the last 100 years start to evaporate and not be as important. which cuts the demands of what a catcher has to do, which in my mind is not a good thing.
Aside of what we're seeing going on behind home plate, which doesn't seem to be working obviously for you and me, but there's been a lot of changes since you and I first came into the game. And now it seems like they're starting to change the rules of the game every year or every other year. 2 or 3 years, there's something new. Can't throw over 3 times now. All that kind of stuff to try to speed up the game. But I mean, in your mind, and you're pretty in tune with it, a lot more than most people. What are the biggest issues facing Major League Baseball right now that you think could possibly be changed again?
I think time of game is one issue. I think these games are getting out of hand, and I think the white elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about is the fact of commercial time has gone probably from when we played maybe a minute and 40 seconds, maybe Dicker. I don't know. I think it's.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but you're right.
It's gone probably every half inning an extra 45 seconds. In playoffs, another minute and 30 seconds between half innings than when we played, which takes its toll. So if you can shave off 45 seconds every half inning, that's another 13 or 15 minutes that would condense some of the dead time in a game between innings. And I think they're making rules without tightening up some of that. I think that some of the pitch clock I do think will be effective because I think it got out of hand. If you watch some games when we first came up, pitcher got the ball, got on the mound, hitter got in the box, you put down a sign, and the action kept going. Now it became so slow, hitter stepping out and pitchers taking 30 seconds in between pitches, and that needs to be tightened up for sure. And I think that eventually it will. But as far as fooling with the strategy, like trying to get more offense in the game, so let's eliminate shifting. No, teach guys how to hit. I think that too many hitters coming up now are trying to get the ball in the air on the pull side, trying to look for slug percentage, and they're giving them the same holes that a guy like Rod Carew, Tony Gwynn, all these hitters earned. Keith Hernandez, guys that could put the ball around the whole field, earned those holes. You had to play these guys straight up and spread out. Now you're giving it to hitters just by legislating it into the game, and I think that's wrong. I think that if a hitter wants those holes, he should learn how to hit to all fields. And the guys that can't do that, well, they are going to hit 230, and maybe their slugging percentage will be a little higher, but you can't just artificially throw them that gift of let's eliminate shifting to get more holes in the infield. I think that's terrible.
Yeah. It's become a home run derby, and I think the old school game, the small ball, at least from a spectator standpoint, is a lot more interesting. But there's also a conspiratorial aspect to this, and that's that these games are sold in 3-hour increments. So even if you sped the game up by 20 minutes, that's just 20 more minutes of advertising. So, I would also think that, that's something to consider.
20 more minutes of post game. How about that? Let's get more interviews in, do anything you have to do, but let's keep that action going.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. We have a lot of catching prospects out there and many college coaches, and we'll drop one name in particular. Johnny Cardenas over at Stephen F. Austin. He was a catcher growing up, and he's a big enthusiast of, I know, Rick, and I'm sure he watched you plenty. What training regimen and drills would you suggest to those guys out there who want to be outliers at the position? I know Rick did a lot of running, and I'm sure you probably had your own routine as well.
Yeah, I wasn't running, but I had my own routine, as Rick knows. I didn't run as much as Rick did. He always ran. But there's absolutely has to be a huge influence each player puts on his whole skill set. There's so many things you have to do to be a good catcher. So many things. That's why it's such an intriguing position to play. Everything from we talk about framing the ball. We talk about being able to block the ball. We talk about being able to make your throw to second base, fielding your bunts out in front of the plate, understanding the infield positioning, and getting your infield in line about where guys should throw the ball to keep them on the right path. And that's before you get to the mental part of understanding game planning and understanding what makes his pitcher tick what are the pitches that are the common sense pitches in each count that are going to give him the best chance to stay ahead of the count, and then make your adjustments between innings if you have to. We were always schooled on the fact of a guy first inning and he struggles maybe with his curveball, you're not going to give up on it. But he gets through the first inning. When he goes out for his warm-ups the second inning, he's got an 8-pitch bullpen before you start the second inning. Let's work on some of the pitches that maybe he wasn't getting that fastball to the outside corner to right-handers. Okay, we're gonna make that a focus after the first inning. We're gonna get out there for our warm-ups in the second inning. We're gonna get on cross corner here, and you're gonna get that release point and get that feel because it's too important for you to do it. And you'll once they get that locked in, then you have a better chance to have a better inning. All these things come into the mental part of game planning and the adjustments with game planning. And Rick and I put a lot of time into it. I mean, you put a lot of time into it to catch at any level, whether you're catching at a high school level, collegiate level, and you're getting more and more data now. And you have to understand what you can apply, what you're going to filter out, and it's going to help you in those aspects. So some of the things on catching, some of the routines, especially to just stay on top of and not just work on the winter. I would get a tennis ball, and in the winter I would be in my garage and I would throw a ball against the tennis ball against the wall in my catching stance and practice getting the ball into my bare hand, the transfer, the load, trying to get your balance where it needed to be to throw. Little things like this are important, and you need to put the time in. It just happen, and you just don't become a major league catcher because you evolve. You become a major league catcher through hard work.
Big catchers or little catchers? Is there a difference?
Yes, a big difference. I think, Rick, you're what, 5'10", Rick? 5'11", were you?
Yeah, 5'11".
Probably now you're 5'9", but you used to be 5'11". I think that I was 6'2", 6'2 and a half, and my mechanics were much more cumbersome. I had to work at them. I think the perfect size for a catcher, if you're anywhere from 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", I think your footwork's tighter. Your ability to block is easier. I think there's so many positive things when you're that high, when you're that as far as being the big guy. You don't agree with that, Dicker?
No. I think you were an amazing home blocker at home plate. I mean, I know you had.
I'm talking about blocking. I'm talking about blocking pitches in the dirt.
Oh, blocking pitches in the dirt. Yeah. That was like you said. It was all footwork and being quick and knowing when to come back to block a ball instead of going forward all the time. Being able to keep that ball in front of you, maybe a little right shoulder into the ball, left shoulder into the ball. But you're right. You got to spend a lot of time because your body will forget to move like that. If all of a sudden you walk out to spring training, you strap it on, you go out to play a game, and all of a sudden you get that real tough one that's a little too high and a little too far, and you forget, I need to be on balance a little bit better and move my feet a little bit quicker, but it'll catch up with you. That's why you lasted a long time. So did I.
Well, you lasted twice as long as I did, but just like if you talk about right now the technique from conventional point stance that we're in for the majority of our, especially with guys on base, all the time. Can you imagine Jay Howell or Jesse Orozco? They're a little breaking ball that they want to get under a guy's swing. It's going to be in the dirt. You need the range because you don't know if it's going to be on the outside corner. It's going to be further out. You don't know where that ball is going to be, and you need to move to it to center it. And the catching on one knee gives you no range at all. You've got no range. You're going to start to try to just pick that ball. You're going to get lucky if you knock it down. I just think there's a better way. I think there's a better way to encompass all the things that are important. It absolutely is important to control the low part of the zone. We need to get that low pitch called a strike. We can do it from a conventional stance just as easily as you can from one knee. And so that's what I said. A lot of young coaches and young catchers out there that kind of take the flavor of the week, which right now for the last couple of years has been catching on one knee. The delicacy of the timing of being able to throw the ball is so much tougher. The ability to have range left or right to block a pitch is tough. And I just know that there's a better way. We worked at it very hard to become proficient, to be able to do it from a conventional stance, it's an athletic stance, and I would do a last resort with a guy if he just is so tough and just has no chance to become a catcher conventionally. If he's got to get on one knee just to be able to catch the ball, that's that's something you would consider.
Mike, you touched on something. There was a better way. There was nobody in the game better at blocking home plate than you were. I mean, you were legendary at some of the plays that you could make at home plate. And even when I came to the Dodgers at 40 years old, and I talked to you a little bit about, Mike, how do you make it look so easy? You talked about getting both feet down. I didn't do that until I became a Dodger, until I had a chance to talk with you. But I've seen some incredible collisions at home plate. I've seen you cheat a little bit and block a little bit, but get a guy. But that just takes a lot of technique and know-how in order to get yourself. You were a big, big guy. Nobody wanted to mess with you at home plate. But talk about some of the times that the big boys tried to get you and how easy it was for you to block them.
Oh, I took my lumps. I got the worst of most of those collisions when I couldn't get down on both knees. But I kind of worked into feeling like if you're playing basketball, you take that offensive foul. You know how you're soft, you just kind of give with it.
Yes.
I wanted both knees in the ground just because I knew both my knees in the ground, they were both protected. I might get hit in the thigh, or you might get a thigh bruise, but I wasn't going to get my knee wrenched and twisted around if I had both knees in the ground. The only time I really did get injured or banged up at the plays where I wasn't able to get maybe both knees where they should have been, or I was exposed with a high throw. And we've all had our our Bo Jackson moments or our Jack Clark moments, where we take a lick. But you know what, Demper? You grew up in the same era I did, a little bit before, and you knew what a badge of honor it was if you were a catcher to hang in there on a plate.
Hang in there.
Expected to. I'm talking about from the time you were 9, 10 years old. You were expected to hang in there and try to make a play at the plate, and that was ingrained in me since I was a little kid catching, and it just always stayed with me. And now, obviously, there's a different technique, but I still think catchers would be served well, like we said, to get both knees in the ground for one reason. That little short hop's going to be easier to get. Plus, if my knees are on the ground near the plate, I know I can get near the plate. It's an easier tag. I know I'm there. I'm not going to reach for the ball. And sometimes when we're standing up, we start to reach for that ball. We create a bigger window for that runner, makes the tag tougher. Everything goes in the wrong direction.
Mike, I think back now you can go on your cell phone and you can see Bo Jackson coming in from third base and just crushing me at home plate. But I couldn't go down. I couldn't go down because I knew I wasn't going to win that battle at 235 pounds of world-class speed. And when Scotty threw me at the last second before he got there, I had to determine whether he was going to come up high and hit me or go low. And I saw him break to go low. And so I pulled my feet up. You can just see it. It's only a couple of inches, but it's off the ground. And I let him hit me because I knew I was flexible enough to roll out of any kind of a hit that he gave me. Now, that would have been a perfect Mike Scioscia play right there. I would have loved to have seen him trying to move you at home plate. I don't think it would have ended up well for him.
I don't know. Oh, Demper, I don't know about that one. But I'll tell you, no matter who the runner was, whether he was, I've gotten hit by Chili Davis. I've gotten hit by Tim Raines was sliding into you like a bowling ball. I mean, it was so hard. And I think the thing that I always take from it, if I could be soft, and I already referenced the offensive foul you take when you're playing basketball. If I could be soft, my knees down, and let my upper body give, then it looks like you're getting smoked, but you're really not. It's like you're the matador.
I know.
You just you tag him and let him go through. And I was fortunate that I was able to evade a lot of contact that way.
How many hits did you have to take to figure that out, though? Like just a few, and it was like, nah, this is what I got to do. I've got to roll with the punch.
I never counted, but I'll tell you what. This game, you learn how to adjust very quickly in every aspect of the game. Whether you're making a throw to second base and your throw's a little bit off, you better find a way to tighten it up before the next throw you have to make, or if you have a bad game before the next game. You have a play at the plate, man. You've got to be ready for it and make your adjustments as on the fly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Rick told me about a couple tricks that he had as a catcher to set up back picks and such. Did you have any tricks or ways of currying favor with the umps that the kids should know about?
Well, there's a lot of, first of all, Rick was a much better technical catcher than I ever was. Had a great release. That's why he played for 24 years. I mean, he had a natural arm stroke and he threw the ball. I don't think you stopped playing because you couldn't throw the ball well anymore, Temper. But I know you always threw the ball well and you kept throwing the ball well. I think that that on some picks, if an umpire, if I knew there's a left-handed hitter, I know I was back picking the first base. And some of these umpires in the NL used to be really inside and would get up kind of on your shoulder, which made it really tough to make your turn. And I might say, hey, just give me 6 inches here. I want to be able to make my throw. And you tell them, it's kind of whispered to them before, and they appreciated that, so they didn't get run over. But as far as the technique of throwing, the release would be the same. I would never have the arm strength to be able to throw with my knees, so I had to get my feet under me. But I might whisper to an umpire just to say, hey, if I was back picking to first base, just give me a little bit of room.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I don't mean to get off of the baseball talk. We're going to get back into that here in a second, but I wanted to find out a little bit more about what you're doing now. I know that you've been involved with amateur baseball ever since retiring from the game. What has that journey looked like, and what are you currently involved in?
Well, it's kind of moved on from where I kind of came to a point where I had some people kicking my tires that I want to get back into the game, that I want to get on the field, that I want to come in for an interview to manage, and it wasn't going to be the right situation. And as time went on, I felt, I felt very drawn to this part of giving back. And I worked with USA Baseball. I've worked with MLB and a lot of the urban youth initiative they have. We'll do some camps in Arizona. We'll do some camps in Florida. Maybe 4 weeks out of the year, and then I'll do stuff for USA Baseball also. Seeing these kids, really some of them are high school freshmen, and some of them are juniors in college, and seeing these kids try to get to the next level is very rewarding. I'm connected with a collegiate team out here in Thousand Oaks. We play at CLU every summer for it's a wood bat league in the summer. So these kids come out trying to get to the next level, as I think you were talking about before, whatever that level might be. And it's very rewarding to give, especially on the catching side, these insights of maybe point them in the right direction that'll make something a little easier for them to do, or a little cleaner to do. But the biggest thing is just the fact that I'm nobody special, but it's the fact that I played in the major leagues. And these kids know you played in the major leagues, and you tell a kid you're working with, man, that is tremendous right there. Keep that feel. You look great. You start to see their confidence level start to grow, and they start to I think, feel that they can play at the next level.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's Kinnehill Oaks. Scott Radinsky works with you. Yeah, Scott's a friend of ours. Our boys have been playing together since they were 6.
Yes. Well, if you have if you're a pitcher, and we've talked about it, Scott's worked with us for a number of years. If you're a pitcher and you come out for the summer, and if you didn't know who Scott Radinsky was before you came, when you get here, he's just an incredible teacher. And these kids that understand the great career he had and what a great pitcher he was, to have Scott Radinsky as your pitching coach is huge for a lot of these young collegiate players.
Yeah, he's a very unique individual. He's one of a kind.
He'd rather be skateboarding than he would pitching, we used to say when he was young. But he had a great arm. He loved baseball, great competitor, and he's just a tremendous person.
And a punk rock singer.
Exactly. Yes. Don't forget that. Yes.
Buckaroo Banzai. It's the strangest thing. He's just a good guy. All right, Rick, you're up.
Okay, Mike, going from the field into managing, I mean, I don't think there was anybody that had more knowledge of the game and players and just how to orchestrate the game than you did. I predicted that first year that you would win a World Series, and you did it very quickly. but metrics has taken over managing at the major league level. I mean, I'm curious to find out what you think of it, because you're the one that had to make out your lineup cards and make all the decisions about what players to keep and this and that. It's not an easy thing to do in the position when you're a manager anymore. So what's your take on all the statistics that have taken over basically what your job used to be?
Right. Well, Rick, I was fortunate. I never had lineups sent down for me.
Yeah.
We worked independently as a manager and coaching staff to put the lineup together that we thought was the best. Data is terrific. We had data when we were playing. We had data that we did apply. And a lot of it's applicable. It's going to make you better. And some of it is for the front office that is not going to help you any which way in that dugout. The OPS is not going to help you in the dugout. You're talking about a macro stat. We deal in the micro. As data would come in and you find ways to apply it, and we found a lot of ways to apply it. Most of it was in game planning, as we talked about. A lot of the things that we would talk about, Rick, and you kind of use your experience to surmise this is happening or that's happening, was validated or it was disproved through data, and that was beautiful because you could bring it together and you can make cleaner decisions. I think that's very, very important. I think what we're seeing in baseball today that is discouraging to me is the fact of everyone's talking about, well, nobody's running anymore, and the reason why they're saying you shouldn't run is a macro stat that says it doesn't add that much to your team's offense if you steal 100 bases a year. But what they miss is, what does it do in that game? What does it do in that game, Dicker, if we steal that base in the bottom of the 8th inning of a tie game, and instead of a guy on first base with nobody out, you have a guy on second base with nobody out? What does it do to that game? It certainly puts the momentum and it tilts it to your favor. And that's what we miss when we get swallowed up by a lot of these macro stats that are out there. We need to look at the micro, what's happening right at that time. And so that's my take on it. I've looked at every stat you could possibly look at. I really feel there's a small sliver that you can take and you can absorb. I think the K-zone data and a lot of the data I was talking to you about from a pitcher helps you to understand what options you have on each count, and it's very clear to be able to figure that out. But unfortunately, there's a lot of macro stats that are coming into this game that are not helping a manager or coaching staff make decisions in real time.
Well, Mike, in your day, you look back and you say to yourself, I managed 19 years in the major leagues. Not very many people do that. What was so different about what you were doing? Very consistent, I know, because your coaches have told me tons of stories about you. You're very consistent, and the way you handle your players, the way you handle your coaches. But what actually do you think is the key that helped you to last for 19 years?
I don't think it was anything special I did. To be honest with you, Rick, I had a philosophy on a lot of different things: the pitcher-catcher communication, how we were going to run the bases, what was important on the defensive side of the ball. This was all stuff that is developed through you had a lot of the same philosophies. I got an opportunity to apply them, and with a tremendous coaching staff and a bunch of players that just embraced it, and they understood how to push the action on the base paths to create better offensive situations. They understood the importance, and you talked about it before, of saving the extra base. And we were, we had Ron Renicky as our outfield coach, and he was anal about, listen, you guys have to get that ball to the cutoff man, throw it right through his chest so we can control that ball and make a throw if we had to. But it saved bases on the defensive side. You didn't see those throws going over the head of our cutoff men, and as routinely as you did around the league. So been paying attention to all these details gave us a cleaner look. And we wanted the guys to play free. I know when we played, we never nervous on the field. We played free. One might not work out some way or the other. Sometimes you'd pop out with bases loaded, and you just had to let it roll off your chest. And the next time you came up with bases loaded, you had a line drive up the middle. That's how you continue to play this game of baseball. You need to play free. I can't carry the burden of maybe bad plays I had in the past or a bad at bat. You've got to start with that new palette every at bat, every pitch, and that was important to us. And then as a catcher, you understand how every pitch is important. Every pitch has a purpose. You just don't want to roll a 1-2 count to a 2-2 count because you're quote unquote throwing a waste pitch. No, we're going to put this guy away. Let's put him away with a good pitch, and getting that understanding. And all of a sudden, you saw our pitch count start to trim up a little bit. So I was very fortunate to be in the right situation. Ownership always gave us a good team, and to do it for 19 years. It was a privilege I don't take for granted. I know it doesn't happen very often in one place,
This is, again, going off script before we get into a word association segment. Is there room for another professional baseball league? Is there a way of bringing in, I'm watching World Baseball Classic right now, and it just seems so much more exciting. And you see small ball, and okay, they still have the shift, which is fine. And guys are actually trying to, beat the shift, which is really interesting to see. Instead of hitting right into it. Of course, they hit right into it as well. Is there room for another pro league? Could it be country by country? Could it be the North American Baseball League? Is there an audience for it? And is Major League Baseball growing the game? Kind of a two-part question, growing the game the way it should be growing.
I think that there's a definite understanding of international baseball and continue to grow the game. And they're playing some in some of the African countries now. They're playing great baseball. You're seeing, Italy, which has had baseball for a while, starting to, show they're playing better baseball. Of course, all the Latin American countries and Asia played it for a long time and have terrific ball players. If you did have another league, there was a world league, you would be taking talent out of every country that there was to have a world league. I just think the travel would be it's almost insurmountable to try to get a schedule of travel if you did. If you make a world league or even a third league here, it will be contingent on how many pitchers you could have, because the pitching is already diluted and continues to, as you have more and more teams, continues to be diluted a little bit. So it's contingent on some things. A league like you're talking about, as far as having a WBC type where you had some of the best players playing for their country. I think in an event like you have now, it's feasible. I just don't know if you could have a 162 game schedule out of a whole league from that.
Yeah, it would be more like breaking it up by country. So, because I think there's a lot of good ball players out there. You might not have everyone throwing 99 and 100, but you might have some of those finesse guys who are forcing outs at 86, 88, or even less.
Yes.
Time for our word association segment, which I really love. So let's rock with this thing. Who were better? Well, this is not necessarily word association, but the first thing that comes to your mind. Who were better collectively, catchers of the 70s or catchers of today?
Catchers of the 70s.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Question. Yeah. Best pitcher you ever caught?
Fernando Valenzuela when he was young.
Best player you ever managed?
Mike Trout.
Hardest collision you ever experienced?
It was Chili Davis.
Chili
What
Davis?
happened to Jack?
No, Jack knocked me out, but Chili hit me harder. I don't know how I survived Chili.
Okay, go ahead.
My glass jaw.
Best friend in baseball?
Oh, gosh, there's a number of them. I'll go Mickey Hatcher.
Mickey Hatcher. Best team you ever managed?
02 Angels.
Of course. Again, loaded question. Here's one that's loaded as well. Did the Eagles get robbed?
The Eagles shot themselves in the foot. Let's put it that way. And I do not think it was so much the Eagles losing the game. I know you wanted a one-word thing answer, but Patrick Mahomes he's in a league by himself. And when he got that ball, you just knew there was too much time. And the Eagles maybe got robbed of a little chance to come back and maybe tie the game up. But as far as winning that game, it was all Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he's something. Being a Browns fan, we left Patrick Mahomes 13 seconds to get into field goal range, and he only needed 9. It's like, really? That's how we're going to do this? Okay, our next segment is a lot of fun. It's the Prospect Blueprint Spotlight. This is where we shine the light on players that might not get as much attention as they should. They're out of the college ranks, and the first one is over in Lakeland. It's actually at Lakeland Community College in the Cleveland area. Kyle Zaleski went 6 for 8 in his first action of the season in frigid conditions, and he hit a home run. I mean, those kids over there have like 3 games in when virtually everybody else has a lot. So it's tough, right? Being a Philly guy. Next one is Jared Sprague-Lott at the University of Richmond Spiders. He had a 2-dinger day on Saturday and a 3rd one on Sunday. Good job, Jared. And then we got to go with a hats off to the University of New Orleans Privateers, who hit 8 home runs. They scored, I want to say it was 35 runs as a collective. And Tyler Bischke hit 1, Tristan Moore, Michael Sanford, Micah New, and Nathan. These are fun. Sorry, Nathan. I'm going to get you right here. Nathan Blasick, good job, buddy. And then 2 home runs by Jorge Tejeda. Fantastic work, gentlemen. That's our spotlight section. Rick, any last words?
No, just it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad I told you this guy was going to have the best segment that we've ever had on Prospect Blueprint. Yeah, it was fun talking with you, Mike. I could do this for another 3 more hours. I'm sure we both be asleep.
I know we could talk forever. And just going back to your spotlight, University of New Orleans. That's after that strike call, the game after they scored all those runs, correct?
Oh yeah, after a lightning strike. Yeah.
No, not the lightning strike. The umpire that called that pitch wasn't it against New Orleans that had the pitcher was 3 feet outside to end the game. I thought that was against New Orleans. Maybe it wasn't. We'll double check. I might be wrong, but I thought New Orleans came back and dominated the next night.
Oh, well, that would be interesting if that was the case. That was the most ridiculous call I've ever. We've seen a lot of them in the history of the game, but that was just a revenge call because he didn't like the guy giving him attitude. It was
we've seen a number of those, Deborah, haven't we?
Oh my God!
All right, here's one more word association. Okay. The roughest umpire that ever lined up behind you. Both of you guys.
The roughest.
Yeah, just the guy who's just clueless. It's just like, my God, call a strike a strike.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, every umpire that I had was such a nice guy that I wouldn't tell you right now because they really were nice guys. Their talent level was just questionable. I'm not going to give you the name of one umpire who was a little older. He would call a strike and ring a guy up on a ball, maybe 2-3 inches outside, maybe 4 inches outside, whatever. And, it was really maybe a little bit too far, but, he threw the ball away. Batter would say a little bit, walk away. He'd come up to me with his clicker in my ear and go, Mike, that was right there, wasn't it? I say, oh, it was right there. I don't know what he's arguing about. And that's like kind of the interaction you would have. Umpires, they come in all different talent levels. Trust me.
See, that's a trick. That's basically, how to communicate with the ump and stay on his good side. Rick, I know you've got something buzzing around between your ears.
Well, I have to go back to probably the toughest umpire. It was in my very first game. And Mike, I don't know if you remember this guy, but Nestor Shylock.
Oh yeah, I remember. I'm sure I remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember him. In my first game that I ever played the major league level, I was catching Dave Boswell's 20th win in Kansas City at old Mulebach Stadium. And I complained about a pitch that was down on the outside corner. I said, hey, that pitch was a good strike. And he said, young man, I'm only going to say this once. He said, but if you want to finish this game, don't you say another word the rest of the game. I said, yes, sir, Mr. Shylock. And we became best friends after that because they controlled the game.
Oh, they did. Doug Harvey. I got along well with him, but Doug was not going to take exactly what you're talking about. It was not going to take you saying, Doug, I thought that pitch was right there. He was not going to take it.
No, They didn't in those days. They've gotten softer through the years, but National League, Mike, you had actually better umpires than I had in the American League. We had some really good ones in the American League, but we had a couple of guys that later on in my career were a little tough to get along with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I've got to say that at least my observation is you still have the best of the best in the major leagues, and without question.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. There's no
doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I think it's unfortunate that we're going, and I think you're going to see the automated umpire assimilate into Major League Baseball, if not next year, the year after.
God,
I
I
think
hope
it's
not.
unfortunate because of, we talk about the skill set of a catcher being able to present the pitch to an umpire. All that's going to just evaporate, and I think it's going to change the game, and not for the better.
Yeah, well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But gentlemen, that's all the time we have for today. I would love to continue this conversation, but I'm the one who does the editing. So our thanks to Mike Scioscia for coming on. Much obliged, Mike. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great to be with you guys.
Pleasure.
All right, Michael.
And don't
It's
forget
raining tomorrow, otherwise we'd be playing golf. I want to get you out on the North Ranch. I know you don't like it there.
Oh, that course is way over my head. It's like putting a little leaguer out at Dodger Stadium and telling him to hit a home run.
Well, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like, share, send highlight video to our email, which is prospectblueprint@gmail.com, so we can get you on our spotlight segment. And don't forget to be good teammates. For Rick and Mike, this is Kelly, Prospect Blueprint, signing out.